and that'd be great. Feel free to do that. I'm seeing people pop on. This is really exciting. I asked Jordan earlier how many people, and he said, well, it could be anywhere from like, what was it, like 30 to 160 or something?
Yeah, we had about 160 register. I figure we may have a third or half of that all on once. Maybe everybody shows up, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, regardless of how many of you are live or how many of you are joining us on the recording, please know that I am more than happy to communicate with you after this webinar. And should you have follow-up questions or should you need some examples or anything like that, I'm more than happy to talk through that. I want to start first by just stating the obvious for me, but maybe not for you. What I'm going to present today is really on behalf of my incredible PBIS team. So this is not the work of Reagan Allegri. This is not the work of one person at a building. This is truly a collaborative effort of about a 10-person PBIS committee that works diligently to create really amazing experiences for kids, to recognize the behaviors that we should recognize, and also knows the importance of reteaching behaviors and being problem solvers and not problem describers. So that is going to be something that you'll hear me talk about quite a bit in my presentation, but the work that I am showing you is really, it's the boots on the ground, which is our teachers in the classroom. So I get the honor to help coach them and give them fresh ideas and encourage them and give them space to try these new ideas because I trust them immensely. But it's really their work that really is going to be presented today. So I want you all to know that ahead of time. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen so we can go ahead and get started with our presentation and move here. All right. If you wouldn't mind, just so the people that I can see, if we're good and you can see this, will you just give me a thumbs up on the screen so we're good to go? Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So like Jordan mentioned, I'm really honored to be with you all today. My name is Reagan Allegri. I'm the proud principal at Heritage Middle School in Liberty Public Schools. Liberty is a district of about 11,000 students, sits right outside of North Kansas City. North Kansas City School District is one of our districts that's right to the west of us. And that is actually where I came from. I was a teacher at elementary level, at middle school level, and at an assistant principal at the middle school level, all in North Kansas City schools before moving over here to Liberty. Now, make no mistake, this N is not North Kansas City. I want to make sure that it doesn't look like I'm going back to where I came from. Our kids here at Heritage Middle School go to Liberty North. So this is our swag for North. So I just want to make sure. So they are, Liberty is, like I said, about 11,000 and Heritage has about 800 students, and we are a 6, 7, 8 building. So my presentation is going to be all about the work here at Heritage, and our theme this year is #WhereIBelong, and our big focus is creating a safe place for every single student to come to school and be seen, heard, and know that they are a part of a bigger picture. And one of the ways that we do that is through our work with Life School and with PBIS. So kind of our time together today is to talk about who we are at Heritage and what we do. And it's an opportunity for me to brag on these incredible people that I get to have as my colleagues. We're going to talk about data digs. I think that is one thing that Jordan had really highlighted in the synopsis of our time together, is how we use data to make decisions in regard to students' behavior, rather than just saying, oh, yep, that's just always been a problem. How we talk about the problem and then we do something about it. And full disclosure, sometimes what we do makes no difference and it doesn't change the trajectory, but we gave it a go and we tried. And that's what I'm encouraging our staff to do with our kids. So then once we have taken a look at that data, what do we do next? That becomes our action planning and teaching. And then we're all in at that point. My staff is very clear that PBIS is not really what we do, it's who we are. And so if we do that, then we all have to be all in. And then through that kind of comes in with all incentives as well. And then we'll do a little Q&A for anything that you want to ask me or anything I can elaborate on. And I'll be sure to let you know if I have no clue either. Be really transparent with that. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Jordan, you let me know if anything pops up and I'll keep moving if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's get into who we are so I can help paint a better picture of the people that are here at Heritage and the students that we have the pleasure of serving. So when I came to Heritage, something that was really important as I was doing all of my introductions with staff members and getting to know all of these people here that I didn't know at all, something that came up was that PBIS was really important and that they wanted that to be something that we continued to do. There was some sections that we needed to breathe life into that were falling by the wayside. And there were some things that we also needed to let go of, because as educators, you all know, there's endless things that we can do, but we cannot do them all. So I'd rather pick a select few, and I'd rather really focus and become really good at that and keep it moving. And so I created committees for every single staff member to be on. And we ended up having 8 committees based on the big rocks that they said that we really needed to focus on here. So that might have been, we really need to focus on belonging and having a really welcoming environment where people feel like they fit in here. It might have been that we needed an intervention committee because we do need to be able to help students that fall into the red or that aren't getting the supports from other services. And one of them was PBIS. So then I tasked those committees to go out and say, if this is what we are going to do, who are you and what do we believe? And so every committee created a goal or a purpose statement. And this is what the PBIS Tier 1 committee decided, that they are a collective group of educators who realize that relationships are the cornerstone of everything. Because of this, you're going to see that our work is anchored in partnerships with students and families with a strong focus on trust. Because we know that if we are doing the work with kids and kids trust us, we can go way deeper and we can move way faster than if we have to continue to act like this is not an organic situation and it doesn't really get us anywhere. So this committee lives and breathes by this purpose statement, and this is what drives their work when they meet monthly to dig into their data or to dig into the work that they're going to do through lessons or through celebrations for kids. So this year, after we did that committee work, we had a new team. We had some teachers that left. I allow teachers to move in and out of committees every year because it might not be the right fit. It might feel like, man, I've been on this committee for 3 years. I kind of want to spice it up. I want to be on the positive culture committee, or I really want to be on intervention. And so this was kind of a new team. We had some new people that joined us on the PBIS crew for Tier 1. We do also have a Tier 2 team as well. So they kind of do separate work in our building. But this new team led to new processes, and it also led to new goals. So when they met prior to school, they sat down, they talked about their purpose statement, and then they created an action plan of 3 big goals that they wanted to hit this year and focus in on and really share with the staff how they're doing this and how they're using data that helps make them their decisions. And then they're also, what's the word? It's escaping right now. They're empowering the teachers in the classroom to repeat the work that the PBIS committee is modeling for them. So here's kind of a breakdown of what our current PBIS team looks like. It's a team of about 10 teachers right now. Not all of them have like a role that happens every single month. So what's nice about this committee when you have a decent amount of people on it is that you can kind of ebb and flow with the needs of the school year. But these are the ones that tend to be at the forefront of the committee because they're the ones that are always having to do some form of a check-in or an update at the meetings. Obviously, we have our facilitator. We have a co-facilitator process right now. We have 2 teachers that are really strong that thought that they could really, rather than taking on that load just by one person, they could split it. So we have a co-facilitator. We also have our secretary who keeps all of our minutes and shares that out school-wide. Our data coordinator is the person that is going into Educator's Handbook, which is what we use here at the district level for recording any discipline data. So I know every district has different things, whether it be EduClimber, Educator's Handbook. Some people use it through Power School, just kind of depends, but ours is Educator's Handbook. And our data collector's job is to go in. She has rights to see the backside of the discipline that is put in on the major and the minor side. And she pulls that data monthly so they can dig into it and make an action plan. Then we also have a live school coordinator. So this person legitimately is in live school monthly, checking to see what teachers are using it the most, where is the hot times of the day where we're really giving points or we're really lacking, what is our biggest thing that we're noticing. Also does a really good job of making sure that we're not oversaturating points so they don't have any worth. Because what you can do is have no points being given, but you can also have way too many points being given. So kind of helping us be a nice balance. Our Eagles Express is our student store. It's ran by students here at Heritage. They are Eagles Express members. So it is a physical store that they fill orders every month. So kids will fill out a Google form of what they'd like to purchase, whether it be food, snacks, trinkets, being principal for an hour, having lunch with a buddy in the commons, being able to go to the library and listen to music for 10 minutes. So all of these different rewards, both tangible and intangible. And they make sure those orders are filled. So when we get the orders from our Google store, then the kids fill those. And then we also use our essential skills special ed classroom to help deliver those orders. So they go out and they do the work of the jobs, delivering it to the kids in classes. Then we also have someone who is in charge of our advisory lessons. So based on what we find out from the data when we make a lesson and getting that out to the teachers, we have advisory, which is like our homeroom. That's where we do our lessons. And we have a person that's in charge of those, of figuring out the communication. And then we've got the publication side. And that's the person that's helping us put videos together, that's helping us film and record and get students to be a part of those videos. And then we have a person who's in charge of our incentives. So that's our crew. They do all different kinds of things. They, of course, ebb and flow as needed, but that's kind of how we structure our team.
So, hey, Reagan, I had two questions. The first one came from Mary Scott. She asked, how long are the advisory lessons?
Great question. So our advisory is only 30 minutes long and it happens 4 days a week. So the max amount of time that we would ever do a lesson is about 15 minutes, because after that, the kids are pretty much checked out if they kind of feel like they're being talked to. So it tends to be around 10 to 15 minutes where they might do a video or they might do reflection questions. They might look at some data that we have provided, and then they do something in an activity in advisory, and then we keep it moving.
And I had one question. This one was for me because I used to run a PBIS committee too. The members coming in and out year to year, like you swapping committees. How do you train the different roles? How do you have that carryover, that efficacy from year to year? Excellent
question. So for all of our committees, it's a little bit more of a structural approach. So my BLT, my building leadership team, everybody that's on that is tied to a committee. So my BLT member stays with me, and she's been on BLT for years. And she's kind of my PBIS guru. So she is kind of the liaison between the committee and BLT if they ever need to report out anything at our meetings, but she's a constant. So should there be somebody that moves in, she's always there to help train if need be. And we still do have a lot of veteran people that stay on, and so they can kind of shift. If, for instance, if I came on brand new to PBIS, I probably wouldn't allow myself to go in to be the live school coordinator. So they would kind of find a different title or a different workload for that person as they kind of got used to it.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so after that, so now we're going to move into data digs. So I love this, thought this was fantastic. When it comes to data analysis, I excel. I do not, full disclosure, data is not my strong suit. So in true leadership, I find people that are really good at it, and then they make me better by helping me do the work that I just am not really great at doing. And that really is Gina Lang. She is the BLT member that I just spoke about, that really helps us dig into the data and gets it in front of us. So one important thing in regard to your data is that you have a clear understanding of what you're looking at. And then after you're done looking at it, you're only spending maybe 5 to 7 minutes looking at it. And then you're immediately talking about what you're going to do about it. Because anyone out there knows, you've probably been on a team before where you leave a meeting and you've been looking at something, and maybe it's like behavior data, like what I have in front of you here. And this is really easy to send yourself down a negative rabbit hole of look at all of the things that our kids are doing. Look at all the mistakes that they're making. And I can't believe how many days of OSS, and I can't believe where this is, that these kids are doing this. This is not new to us as educators. Kids are supposed to come in and test boundaries. They're supposed to figure out what it is that they are and are not allowed to do. And then they're also understanding that there's going to be consequences for actions, and we hope that they learn from them and move on. So what we don't allow is for our team to come together and look at this as a negative. Instead, it's, okay, these are opportunities. So now we know if we're having this amount of discipline happening in this location, what are we going to do about it, rather than just continue to say, yep, those darn kids, they just keep doing that. That's just not the way that we operate at Heritage. It's really much more in a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset. So this is a screenshot of what Gina would send out to our team every month. So she goes into Educator's Handbook, she takes all the data, she puts it into a spreadsheet for us. Everything is removed. It has nothing to do with kids' names. It is literally the hard facts of what rolls into an administrator in regard to major referrals. So you can see this is March of 23. This is the latest data that she sent out. There were 17 school days that we were together, and we averaged around 5.82 major referrals a day. With that, you can see how many of the referrals, what the categories were. So the top one, the disrespectful or disruptive, that first one is speech, and the second one is conduct. So we do break those apart because we feel it's really important that we talk about, is this something that someone is saying, or is this something that someone is doing with an action? Because the way that we process with kids should look different based on that. If you're doing something that is conduct-wise, physically, or with your body, I'm going to probably not put you back in a room to process with that person if you've made somebody feel like that wasn't the greatest idea. However, if it's speech, then I'm going to talk to you about how you could have gone about speaking to someone to get your point across in a much more respectful manner. So that helps us with the processing piece as well. So we take a look at this data. We're able to look at what the actions were, what admin assigned based on these discipline referrals. Also, we take what's our hot button for whatever reason. Today, it's probably why my hair looks the way it does. Thursday kicks our butt. I don't know why. It's like we're on our way to Friday, but we just can't quite make it. And then we look at where it is that it's happening. You can see Commons is a big place for us. It's one of our most unstructured locations and unsupervised locations. Okay. After that, we take a look at the arrangement. Like, was this during passing? Was it happening? I'm going to move my screen here so I can see it. Was it happening when we're in class? Is it happening during lunchtime? And then what's the grade? What's our biggest offenders? Now, I would guess if you took a look at your data for your school, this is probably pretty similar across the board. Our 8th graders are bigger offenders. They're the ones pushing the boundaries because they're ready to go to high school. Thursdays, I don't know, it just stresses us out. Commons or an open area where it's just a lot easier to have a lot more people moving around. That's where that's going to be. And a lot of times too, it's happening in the classroom as well. That's also our other one that gets sent back to us a lot because teachers are writing up from there. So I'm going to take you off of this screen so you don't do what our brains naturally do, which is start looking for the negative and try to keep us in that positive space to ensure that we say, okay, we've looked at it, we've made notes, we're going to get rid of it, slide it to the side. So let's keep it real. What did we notice? So this is what would be kind of the practice of that team. So what did we notice right off the bat, guys? Well, we got some inappropriate gestures happening, whether someone flipped someone off, whether we were doing just whatever, making fun of others, someone out of their area, not where they should be. I guess inappropriate actions is on there twice. Sorry about that. Taking others' things and horseplay. Okay, now it's time to dig. This is the whole point of the data dig. We can't fix all of these things. We can't. We cannot focus on all of them. We can't create a lesson for every single one of them. We can't track every single one of them. So what are we choosing to do and where are we going to go? So then we start having conversations about this, which is things like, what do we notice about it? What's the lane going to be that we're going to pick from? We are not going to stay in a problem describing space because by nature, inevitably, someone's going to look at one of those write-ups and say, I know exactly who that kid was. I know what that was. I know what happened. This is this, this, and this. We don't care. It's already been taken care of. We've moved on. So staying in a problem solving mindset and not describing it. It's already moved past. And I put that here with this visual of not getting caught in the maze. Because as educators, Everyone, we are fixers. This is what we're trained to do. We see a problem, we think about ways to do it, and we want to take it all on. We want to put everything in the backpack, strap the backpack on, and we want to lug it up a hill. And we absolutely cannot do that, or we will burn out and we will get nowhere. So the toughest thing, I think, for my crew, because they want to do so much, is to just really take bite-sized pieces. And then how are we going to reteach it? Or how are we going to teach it? Maybe we haven't even taught it at all this year. And ensuring that we are doing that 4-to-1 positive ratio every time we see it happening.
Yeah, I want to reiterate and kind of reinforce what you said there about the describing versus solving. Like, it'd be very intentional with your team about that, because that's an easy trap to fall into. It
really is. Yeah. Because it helps us, like, sometimes when we look at student behaviors, it helps us justify why we feel the way we feel. And that makes sense. If everything was perfect all day long, we would just be like gallivanting out of here and it would be so great. We already know what wears us out as educators. So it's kind of like, to just sit there and describe that over and over and over, that's the definition of insanity. You're doing the exact same thing, expecting a different result. I'm not going to continue to walk into the wall and hope at one point that wall isn't there. So we know that the student discipline will be there. Our goal is to lessen it and to help kids realize that what happened first didn't benefit them. So we have to keep it moving. So that always comes with the now what, which is, let's do it. Let's dig in. What are we going to do? Before I go on, I do want to hit on this point. Please know, sometimes when we get on webinars or we go to professional development, like, I don't know about you, but I can go there and I can come home and I can be like, I don't think I'm doing anything right. Like, gosh, this team or this school or this teacher is doing everything. Like, oh God, like I got to figure out how to do that. That is not what is happening here. I think it's important to remind us that when I show you what we have done this year, it's been a very small chunk that they decided to bite off. And it does not happen every single month. We don't do a lesson every single day. We don't do a lesson. We honestly have done 3 lessons this year so far with our data, because that's what was manageable for us. And then we'll build on that next year. So always like, cut yourself slack, because it's really easy to go down the rabbit hole of, this is another thing I'm not doing, because you're already doing a ton. You're already on a webinar trying to learn more of how to be a better educator and how to, incentivize and teach. Like, so you're already doing it. I just think that that's worth putting that out there. Okay, so now the what is, to change a behavior of someone, the person must be involved in the process. And if you're wanting to change it for the student, a child is way more likely to implement a solution that they helped create. And that's what was one thing that our team decided was really important this year. So when we did that data dig a couple of months ago, now that, of course, that data was March, but data looked very similar back in October. I know that that's a shock to everybody that we still had issues with disruptive speech, or, someone screaming in the middle of class, some form of profanity just because they're overwhelmed, whatever, right? We all have our own issues. But when we looked at that data a couple of months ago, the team decided we're struggling with horseplay. The kids are touching, the knocking off the hat, the smacking on the back, not physical aggression, just not keeping our hands and our feet to ourselves, which is that lovely, like, kafooty word that I did not know was ever a thing until I got here. If you don't know what that is, that's keep all hands and feet to yourself. Is that right? Anyways, it's kafooty. You'll figure it out. But so we focused on horseplay, or just keeping our bodies under control for this lesson that I'm talking about. So they started looking at it and we're like, all right, we need to be really clear what that is looking like when we're talking to students. And the best way when they started talking to kids is like, why do we do this? Why do you think that, we're jacking around in class, or we're messing around, or we can't keep our hands to ourselves? And kids were pretty open and honest about the fact that they're like, I don't know, like, we just do, like, we're not really being redirected. Nobody's telling us to stop. We're being immature, and it is what it is. Okay. All right. That's fair. That's honest. So with that feedback, we decided to have our students in our broadcasting team go out and start interviewing and filming what we want to see from kids. So the broadcasting class went out, interviewed, and did the film work while our theater kids acted it out. So it was a combo and it linked both of those contents together. You will never ask a theater kid to act something out and then say no. They're all about it. You're going to put me on a camera. You're going to let me do my thing on it. And then the broadcasting kids love kind of having this thing come to fruition. So they sent that video out, and in advisory, they watched it. And after they did, the next piece was, we're going to talk about this. So what did you see? What did you notice? And then what are we going to do about it based on this information? So guiding questions that happened were, let me move this out of the way so I can see again. Where have you experienced these actions in our building before? A lot of the kids talked about it being in the hallway during passing, in the bathroom, boys' bathroom specifically, in the commons, and in the lunchroom. So that tells us it's our unstructured places, not really so much in the classroom, necessarily on the bus or anything, but really on those movements when we're moving through the hallways. So then we got a little bit deeper by saying, have you ever stood up for someone who is being mistreated? Like maybe someone was going up and bothering somebody and flipping somebody's hat, or was poking them, or stepped their foot out to attempt to trip them or call them some unkind word or name? Or has someone ever stood up for you, and what did that sound like? And then what are ways that we can all make HMS a safe place? Because we had to make this really big arch for them to understand that when we do this, when we act this way, it does create an unsafe environment, and we don't want that, because you tell us on our data every single year that you want a safe school. So if you want the safe school, how come you're not helping make it a safe school? So then we're empowering them to be a part of that solution as well. Any questions on that? I feel like I'm just talking a lot, so. All right. So after that, the next piece, so that was one example of ways that we've taken our data, we've created an action plan, we pushed it out to the teachers and the students, and they did something with it. Here's another really cool thing that I love that our team did that was really meaningful. So as a staff, I don't know how if you all do like different types of surveys throughout the year, but we do something called panorama surveys. And it's really about kind of culture and climate in our building. And the staff takes it on from an adult perspective, and the students take it from the student perspective. And we had done an activity in one of our professional development breakout sessions where I asked all of the staff to get together and figure out a way, or they took different pieces of our panorama data and they unpacked it. They noticed some things and they did some grows and glows. And something that really came out of our data was that kids and staff were hanging out on like voting 3. So if it was like a Likert scale, they were kind of hitting 3 of like a sometimes or maybe or every now and then. And it wasn't a strong yes or a strong no. Well, guess what? In our panorama data, that 3 counts as a negative score. So it makes it look lower by them kind of being in the middle of what they were being asked. So if it was like, I feel safe in my school, you really should have a strong yes or no to that. That really shouldn't be a sometimes. Like that should be a gut instinct action. But our kids were hanging out at a 3, and on certain questions, our staff was too. So I helped explain, I'm not saying I want you to not pick a 3. I just feel like maybe we need to understand when we're doing this, we're not getting clean enough data to help us make an action plan to move forward. Because if I bring that to you and I say, okay, you guys are telling me we don't have a positive climate, we need to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, yeah, Reagan, we're good. Like, I don't know where you're getting this. Well, I'm getting this because I got a whole lot of you giving me a 3 on this question. So that was the same thing for kids. So after I modeled that for the adults, we had some teachers that did it with kids based on panorama data that helped us lead into our next PBIS piece, which we called breaking out of the middle. And we said, Heritage students recently took the panorama survey and the school collected everyone's responses. Looking at the following data, you're going to notice a lot of students selected in the middle of what would be considered helpful or hurtful for one of these questions. And this can lead to mediocrity. We want all Eagles to expect and inspire greatness in ourselves and in others. So please look at these results and make some observations on how we can all work together to improve our school. And from that, this is the data that we showed them. So the question was, at your school, how much does the behavior of other students hurt or help your learning? And look at how many kids marked the middle. Like, that's really not a question that you should kind of be teetering between. Like, if I think about my staff, if that were to be like, how much does the behavior of other staff members affect your learning? I would vote it doesn't, because they're not that way. They're not hurting me or hindering my ability to do my job. So I wouldn't be on the negative side. But if I was in a place like that, then I should be on the negative side, saying this does affect me here, because that data is going to go to somebody that then can make an action plan out of it. So for our students to hit, this neither helps or hurts my learning, we're like, really? Like, if your neighbor to the right is just will not stop talking and is berating another student or is being so disrespectful to a teacher, that doesn't impact you? And if it doesn't, great, then mark that it doesn't impact you. But if it does, then mark that it does. Don't hang out in the middle. So then these questions kind of helped facilitate almost like an open dialogue with kids. Like, what behavior keeps other students from learning? And then all of a sudden we're talking about shouting out, not listening, kids getting out of seats, not being prepared. Well, so is that happening in your classroom? Well, yeah. So where should you really have voted? Oh, I guess I could have probably done this, because then my teachers would have known what they can do to help fix it. And then what behaviors do you need to improve on? So classmates could say your behavior helped them learn. Again, putting it right back to the kids to say, what can I do? Because I know I'm not perfect. I'm not an angel. I don't show up every single day as the principal and make stellar decisions every single day. So what can I do to always try to make myself better? And then here, how often are people disrespectful to others at your school? Okay, well, we have frequently on that. So if we have no problem saying, 225 kids said frequently, but around 230 said sometimes, I think we could probably unpack that and really see what the kids are trying to tell us there. So again, some follow-up questions for the kids. So then this information is what can go to PBIS for them to say, okay, kids are saying this, rather than the adults making the decision of what the lesson should be. How about we have the kids be a part of it, that we can say, because you said this, 8th grade or 7th grade or Eagles, we heard you loud and clear. We're going to help teach that behavior and really make sure we're honing in on it. That was a very long-winded thing, but I do think it's important to know that it was this data that helped me decide that our theme this year would be Where I Belong. It was that kids were saying, I feel fine, but I can see kids walking around and they just kind of float around, and I don't know if they have any friends, or I don't know if they feel connected to the building. Or kids saying, I absolutely feel like I belong here. I love that. I want that to keep going. And so we hear the kids' data, we hear what they're saying, but we also want to really be clear on what they're trying to tell us. And that sometimes or doesn't really bother, that doesn't do us any good. So it just really offered really rich conversations between the staff and the students to help us talk through some things. And just really proud of a couple of our classroom teachers that dug into this, that just took the day to really connect with kids and talk to them about how important their feedback is to us as adults.
This is really cool data there, Reagan. The things that I've seen, like specifically with PBIS, the places that really get it right, they have like some serious input from kids. They've got kids involved in rewards or even making rubrics or giving feedback on like the kind of behaviors that are happening, like you guys are doing. So I think that's awesome. That's one of the things that I hope folks take away from this is, ask your kids how it's going.
That's right. And I think that's a really good launching point, because I mentioned earlier our Eagles Express committee being the ones that fill those orders and be able to kind of bring that joy. that was kind of something I was thinking, like, how can we grow on that? And so what you just said just completely sparked, like, maybe we 2.0 our Eagles Express to not only be the ones that are like working the store, but also meeting, every other month to talk about what they see in the classroom. And that's the feedback that Mrs. Collins is taking to the PBIS committee that helps drive the work. Like, this is our student feedback time.
Love that. Love it.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so the last piece, am I doing okay on time?
Yeah, you still got we got about 20 minutes left. You want to cut for questions here in a little bit, though.
Got it. Yep. So I'm on my last one, so that'll be perfect. So, okay. So, the last piece is just the incentive piece. And I know, when I had talked with Jordan and Hannah, that one of the things that they wanted me to chat about is how we have tried to kind of break the mold a little bit on it always being food-based, which is or candy or things like that, which is great. Kids love Takis for whatever reason. And so we will give them the Takis and the hot Cheetos, but that's not always going to be the thing. And so we really focus this year on thinking outside of the box of ways to recognize students in different ways and kind of appeal to all of our crowds. And so one of our teachers that's on our committee, that's really her job, is kind of thinking of different types of incentives. And she's just done a really incredible job of that this year. And we really have to be all in. And one of the things that's important I mention is when PBIS sends this out, this doesn't come from me. This really does come from the committee. So Christina, who is in charge of incentives, when this mass communication goes out to the staff, that's what we're doing. And so if there's feedback to me of like, hey, when we did that day, that was kind of hard because we already were on a modified schedule or we had a whole bunch of subs, I'll take that feedback from the leadership side to help clean up those processes. But I really want to empower the team to run with that. So it doesn't come from me. I'm not the one saying that this is what we're going to do. This is coming from PBIS. And with that, these are kind of some of the things that we have focused on. While we do have our Eagles Express store that you can get the trinkets and the foods and the fun stuff, we wanted to give kids experiences over things as well. So during that advisory time I mentioned, we've carved out once a quarter for us to have different ways that kids can get out of advisory and go and be a part of an activity where they pay for live school points. And so like maybe, for instance, for this one, this was actually this was the top 75 live school point earners. So this was not even a buy-in. So they didn't even have to spend money for this. We pulled the data, decided what the cutoff was, let students know ahead of time that the top 75 point earners were going to be eligible for this. So it like restarted it. So the kids knew ahead of time, hey, in 3 weeks, we're going to be doing this incentive. And then we were able to pull 25 kids per grade and let them choose for winter fun before we went on break. They could go to the gym and do like King of the Court dodgeball games. Some of the kids were like, I'm not interested in sports. That's not my jam. And so we said, well, what do you want to do? And the kids were like, we'd love to do a scavenger hunt. So they were like, oh, so the teachers basically said, okay, but you got to put it together because I still have to teach. And so our web leaders, which is our for where everyone belongs, or where everybody belongs, is a student group of 8th graders, and they designed the whole scavenger hunt. So then they just came to me and they said, we need to make sure it's okay. We're going to have kids moving around the building. They're not going to be in class. We need the gym. So I got to touch base with PE. So like any of the administrative things that I needed to do on my end, I would, but they were taking care of all the logistics. And then they ran it. I had no idea this even went on. I completely forgot that day until I was a part of the scavenger hunt, and I kept seeing kids poking into my office trying to take a picture of me. And I was like, what is going on? They're like, oh, you're a part of our scavenger hunt. I'm like, well, next time, like, let me know so I can have my hair done. So they were a part of that, which was really cool. Another one was the top 200 live school point earners for this. We cleared out our auditorium, dropped the screen, had a movie that was there, we gave movie tickets so kids know that they didn't have to pay for this. This was just, we're proud of you, so come and hang out. And and it was during 6th and 7th hour so we could watch the full movie. Again, student feedback, they scanned that QR code and they voted on the movie. Whichever one got the most votes is what they use versus us just picking it for them. Another thing that we heard from my athletes were like, you know what we want to do, Dr. Allegri? We need like tournaments. We want to do like 3-on-3 basketball, or we want to do a volleyball tournament, or we want to do dodgeball or whatever. Okay, great. So student council helped with this. Student council partnered with PBIS and did all of the logistics of, it was 50 points to play if you wanted to get a team together. And then they played Monday. It was like elimination bracket. So they played Monday, Tuesday, Thursday to get through a bracket. And then on Friday, it was tournament play. So they played for the championship, and any kids in that grade of the 3-on-3 tournament or the volleyball tournament could go and pay 25 live school points to go and attend. And then same thing with our basketball tournament. So just these cost us nothing. There's $0 that had to be funded for this. And it was actually, it's the most popular. So next year, the plan is to have a tournament play once a quarter. So 4 different sports. And then also like the movie thing. We're going to do, our plan is to do the movie thing before winter break. And then we just did Kona Ice, which is a shaved ice truck that pops up outside of our school. Kids could spend, I think it was like 400 live school points or 500 live school points to get 1 free pass out of class to be outside on the track and get Kona Ice. And we paid for that out of my budget. So there was something fun and foodie there for that as well. So those are my things. That's just kind of how we do things at Heritage. Again, I really have to recap and remind everybody that this is not what I do. This is what my team does. I'm just really fortunate that they've got such great ideas and they come to me and trust me with it, and I trust them right back.
Ray, that was awesome. Folks, we got a few minutes for questions. I've got a few I'll ask while you guys are thinking of yours. And after I get through mine, feel free to chime in. The first one I had had to do with student leadership opportunities, because I counted like 3 different groups that were planning things. Is there overlap, or is there that many opportunities? I think it was Webb, the We Belong group, your student council, and your PBIS. Was it Eagle Express?
Yes. Yep. So we actually have 4 different student leadership opportunities. We have our Unite Council, which is really focusing on like all of our inclusion. Then we have student council. Then we have Eagles Express, which focuses on the incentive store. And then we have Web, where everybody belongs. And those are leaders that are almost like our ambassadors. So like when we have new students that attend the school, or whenever our incoming 6th graders come in and they don't know the building, the Web leaders give them tours, things like that.
Yes. So like that's one of the biggest things like we need to strive for is like student ownership and like processes and like how and the culture of the school. And there's just a lot of opportunities there for kids to get involved. I think that's awesome, because so it's going to be spread out a bunch of kids. My next question had to do about the lessons themselves. So whenever well, for one, because you talked about all the point earner events and the lessons, do you ever tie those events to the folks who like I think one of the thing you guys were targeting was horseplay. Are you tracking just horseplay? And like if like that goes down specifically, can they get into one of those events?
Oh, that's a great idea. So we didn't do it on that through the student lens. I love that. Like if we tracked it, and then if by a school, you know, we see a decline in this amount, then we're going to offer this. I love that. I'm writing that down right now. We did something on the flip side though, where Doug, who's on my committee, came and said, hey, Reagan, we incentivize kids all day long to do X, Y, and Z. And we're saying we want teachers to be finding kids doing the right thing and give these live school points. And we're kind of at a lull. We're seeing that we're not like seeing the teachers do it, even though we're reminding them. What if we incentivize the teachers to do it? And I was like, okay, talk to me. I love that. And he was like, you know what makes everybody happy is nachos. And I said, I don't know anyone that doesn't like nachos. I don't trust those people. So I said, yes, what do you need? And he was like, what if we tracked for 3 weeks? We wanted to see an uptick in live school points by teachers, throughout the day. So it wasn't like a front load, right? Like I give 50 live school points on at 8 a.m. Like it's like we're going to look at all the different data. And if teachers did it, then I would provide a nacho bar for them. I literally bought a whole bunch of chips and cheese. And then I said, if you want anything else, you got to bring it. And then they made like a bar out of it. So we just had a nacho party for the staff last week. And that was huge.
Super fun. The movie I had to do because I was a dean of high school, and like you got to do something about tardies for high school. So
Yes.
that we did the movie thing for 0 to 1 tardies for, I think, for like a whole semester or something. That helped a lot, was targeting
Absolutely.
that specific thing. That was a big issue for us. I'm sure it was for most high schools. My other follow-up question on the lessons, because you talked about theater and broadcast, so they actually are filming those. My question was on scripting. Are they involved in the scripting? Like, not that part. How does that process work? How much planning did it take? All that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I always want to be really honest and transparent. We had the kids involved in that, and then there was a couple of them that would get to us, and we were talking like, oh, we're just feeling this is going to fall flat. Like it's not exactly what we're looking for. So we're really new into the phase of like trying to film and get kids to do scripts. We did let them kind of run with it, and they shared that out with us, but it does take a lot of work on that. And so I think that, yeah, we had to be really careful too, because we're trying to do it in the middle, like right before the musical and the fall play. And so we're kind of tapped. So my feedback for that would be go ahead and give them the script, because this isn't something they know how to do. And then let them do the acting and the filming. And if you get a crew that's really skilled at it, then they can start kind of taking ownership along the way.
That's a great call, and that's good experience to share with others, because the finished product, if you actually have something they've made, they created, and you have students on, it's just a lot more powerful than a teacher reading a PowerPoint. It is.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, we'll hang out just for a minute or two longer. If anybody else has other questions, now would be the time to do so. If you are, this is always a question that does come up. If you would like the awesome slides that Reagan created, so you got some notes for yourself, those will be included when we send out the recording later this evening. So you'll have all the notes, and you'll have a copy of the recording as well. All right. Not seeing any other questions yet, Reagan. If there's anything else you'd like to add, thank you. This has been awesome. This is really good practical advice that folks can use. There's just things that carry over to all sorts of different kind of schools. So we really appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your knowledge.
My pleasure. I hope you all have a great end of the school year. Stay strong out there.
All right. We'll see you guys. Have a great end of the school year.
Take care.
Yeah. See ya.